Hello everyone and welcome. In today's video, I'll discuss how to develop a cool character for your next campaign. Now I have to be honest, when I play I don't put enough time into my characters, especially when it comes to one-shots. Partly this is due to time constraints, and this is something I want to work on. However, with some of my longer term campaigns, I've really gone to town on fleshing out who my characters are, their wants and needs, and all that good stuff that makes an imaginary construct feel like a real person. So I'm delving back into Dungeons & Dragons Player's Handbook to understand more about the sources they provide in building a solid character, and how I'd apply their tips to my own character development. Now, I'm going to skip past the physical attributes, as I find the backstory would guide these. Plus, I don't know about you, but a character's personality helps me determine what they look like, rather than the other way around. The only occasion I can see myself starting with physical attributes is when a tattoo or body modification is a plot point integral to the storyline. This probably isn't the best example, but for those who've seen the film Nobody, there is a scene where you see a glimmer of Hutch Mansell's tattoo. This is quite significant as it reveals more about his past life as an auditor for the military. So back to the D&D. If we delve into the Player's Handbook, we want to navigate to personal characteristics. As we can see from this section, the four main components that make up a character are personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws. I will go through each of these and how I would use them if I were designing my ideal character from scratch. So the first component is personality traits. This part of the character development is more dependent on your character sheet. For example, if you have a high intelligence score, your character would likely be interested in acquiring knowledge, and that could inform some aspect of their personality, like what they enjoy, their values, and motivation. A useful technique or tip the Player's Handbook guide offers is to look at the highest and lowest scores and choose a trait related to each one. For example, if a character has a high intelligence and low charisma, they may be very smart but are exceptionally cocky about it, or in other words, they are highly arrogant. But how did I reach that outcome? Well, highly intelligence favours reasoning and insight, but charisma is related to how likeable a person is. So while the person can be intelligent and understand what the concept of being nice is like, they may innately struggle with actually being nice. The Player's Handbook, however, just leaves it at that, but what I'm interested in is why the character is motivated to behave like this. Not everyone who is intelligent is mean, and likewise not everyone who is mean is intelligent. So why is this character like this? What life experience has put them on this path? Perhaps they came from a highly esteemed wisdom family who pride themselves on their abilities. They didn't suffer fools and this attitude was passed on. Or maybe that wasn't the case at all. In fact, this character came from humble beginnings and struggled to understand why others just didn't put in as much effort as what they did. Now, the Player's Handbook has done a good job of demonstrating show not tell when it comes to personality traits. So let's go back to a high intelligent but uncharismatic character. Just saying they are intelligent and unlikable could literally mean anything. So how are they intelligent? What do they say that gives this impression? Well, the example excerpt in the Player's Handbook is, "I've read every book in Candlekeep." Okay, so far so good. We've discovered they've been to Candlekeep and they are a voracious reader. But how do they demonstrate low charisma on top of that? We could adjust this to, "I've read every book in Candlekeep. It was easy. I just don't understand why more people make reading a priority." If we focus on the second part of that sentence, we can see their uncharismatic traits bubbling through. Maybe part of their character arc is overcoming this arrogance as time passes. Next up is ideals. A good way to think about ideals is as cardinal rules. A cardinal rule is a principle or maxim someone lives by, such as treat others how you want to be treated. This is also a good point to pause and discuss alignment, as it relates to the type of traits your characters could have. Alignment describes your player's ethical and moral perspective. The Player's Handbook lists 9 types of alignment. From a moral perspective, a character can be good, evil, or neutral. These can then be combined with 3 attitudes: lawful, chaotic, and neutral. These combinations make up the 9 types of alignment. Right, so with that in mind, let's revisit these ideals and keep our highly intelligent but completely uncharismatic player in mind. I'd like to make them lawful good. Basically a really snooty know-it-all whose heart is in the right place. The Player's Handbook lists many ideals to choose from, all from different backgrounds. So if I were to choose to focus on logic, because this character is highly intelligent, and then go down the lawful route, an ideal and principle that could guide them is emotions must not cloud our logical thinking. So if the character is in a situation that maybe requires some compassion in addition to problem solving, then dive bomb on the compassionate part, but excel at the problem solving. Maybe a scenario forces him to break some uncomfortable news to an NPC. The message is accurate, but delivery is incredibly insensitive. Now I'm just choosing examples from the Player's Handbook to make my points easier to understand, but I'd recommend working on your own and tailor them to the world your campaign is set in. The third part of character building is bonds. Bonds can really help with role-playing as they can guide the players with their backstory and in-game interactions. A bond basically serves a connection to something they value, for example a person or place. It's similar to a cardinal rule or ideal in that it's concrete and unlikely to change. Here is an example of an interesting bond from the player's handbook that is a good match for my character. I sold my soul for knowledge. I hope to do great deeds and win it back. So let's say our arrogant but good know-it-all sold their soul to achieve limitless knowledge. But they've seen the error of their ways and will do anything to undo what they have done. Maybe they're beginning to make an effort to help NPCs in need. Whereas before, they were only self-motivated and didn't care about anyone but themselves. So as you can see, the bond itself doesn't have to be super specific to the game in hand, but forms part of their backstory. Now, there are plenty of bonds in the player's handbook, and some will suit your character more than others. Don't forget, the bond furthers your character's story or plot, so keep that in mind before choosing one, as it's something you may need to revisit later. Another important point is that you may develop new bonds throughout the game, so while one bond may not seem applicable now, it could do so in the future. Finally, there are flaws. This is my favourite type of personal characteristic. A tragic hero is a character with a fatal flaw they cannot overcome. So in our character's instance, this flaw could be arrogance or ambition. They've dedicated their life to becoming scholarly. After all, they've read all the books in Candlekeep. But at what cost? For starters, they've sold their soul. But can they overcome this? Can they put their arrogance and ambition aside to help others and ultimately save themselves from downfall? The player's handbook starts off with a few great questions, such as what enrages you, or what are you terrified of, and what your vices are. Now, if you want to get more technical, we can think about categorising our character's flaws into minor flaws and major flaws. So a minor flaw, like the name suggests, is on the whole insignificant. For example, let's just say because our character is a bit of an arrogant know-it-all, they correct people all the time. That's a minor flaw, as although that is quite annoying, it's not the worst flaw to have. A major flaw is more serious. For example, let's say our character has spent so much time in Candlekeep that they become too used to being on their own and find it difficult to loosen up control and accept help from others. They're obsessed with small details and struggle to see the bigger picture. This flaw can cause some serious problems, but is unlikely to destroy the character or be a fatal flaw. Now, a fatal flaw could be their ambition or drive to be better than everyone else. So they've read all the books in Candlekeep. What next? They've already sold their soul, but it's not enough. What else are they prepared to sacrifice to acquire more knowledge? Who will get hurt along the way? Will it be those close to them, or will it be themselves? Right, that's all for today, and I'll see you in the next one.